It wouldn't be fall without your favorite hot beverage. And what does every hot beverage need? But of course, a drink sleeve. And that is what we are going to create today with faux leather and our silhouette. Before we jump in, I want to say, hey, this is Christy here at Crafty Christy's Creations. I'm here to help you master your silhouette. And today we are working on episode 3 of our Falling for Craft series, and we are going to be creating a fall themed drink sleeve that is going to fit on your new favorite Starbucks mug. You can see we're orange for the season. And we're going to create a drink sleeve that is going to fit around the outside of this here mug. So let's dive into Silhouette Studio and get started. As you can see, I've already created the sleeve and the design that we're going to put on there. And the sleeve I created using the conical warp tool that is over here under the warp panel. You've got your conical warp, and then here you would fill in all of your measurements. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see a video on how to do that part of it, and I will work on that for you. But that's how I created this sleeve here. And then, you know what, I don't even know what font this is anymore. And then this little acorn is one of the graphics that I've created before. So this is what we are making here. And I'm going to cut this drink sleeve out of faux leather. And then the words here we're going to cut out of heat transfer vinyl. So let's get everything set up to cut. The first thing we need to do is mirror our letters here. So with that selected, I'm going to come over here to my transform panel or my replicate panel. And then I'm going to mirror that to the right, and then I can go ahead and delete the original. So now this is ready to rock and roll, and then we've got this that's ready. So that's all we had to do to get things set up, and then I'm just gonna set up here. I'm using my Cameo 5. I'm gonna be using the sticky mat for this. So just the regular 12 by 12 mat, and then my media size, I'm gonna leave it 8.5 by 11 for the faux leather. So that all looks good. And what we need to do now is zoom out so we can see our page over here. Let's scoot this stuff over. And then we can zoom in. Okay, that's a little better. So we need to just turn this to fit on here. So you've got this little green circle, and you'll get a like a circular arrow. You can click on that, and that's gonna turn your design. So because of the length that it is here, it does need to fit on an angle to make sure it's gonna fit on here. So I'm just gonna angle this so it fits. And that looks good right there. So we've got that set up. Let's get everything set up on our mat. Okay, so let me just kind of show you what we're working with first. I've got an 8.5 by 11 sheet of faux leather here. So it's got the fabric backing, and then we're using this kind of beigey cream color. As you already saw on my mug, I think this is going to look really nice on there to add some nice contrast. And then I have this dandelion colored heat transfer vinyl. And I think this is just going to be a really nice combination. And then to secure this on the back side, or, you know, to secure the wrap, we're going to use some of these little snaps here. And I've already built in some length to our wrap so that we can go ahead and do that. So here's everything that we're working with, and then let's get things set up on our mat. The other thing I'm gonna do with my sticky mat here is I'm gonna protect my sticky mat from all of the fibers on the backside of my faux leather. And to do that, I'm gonna bring in a roll of transfer tape. And I'm going to secure this roll of transfer tape onto my sticky mat with the sticky side of the transfer tape facing up. So it'll stick to the mat, and then it's also going to have sticky side facing up so that it can also hold on to our faux leather. So let me see if I can get that. So you did see me do this same trick last week. If you watched our episode number 2, we made a felt wreath, and I will link that video below so you can go check that one out. But we did this kind of same process here with protecting our sticky mat, so you might already be familiar with this. This is my favorite way to protect a sticky mat and to get some more life out of it. Otherwise you get all those fibers on here, and the fibers are really hard to get off your mat. And then I'm just going to use my scraper tool to just really secure this down. And this is not the cleanest mat, so it's not going to be perfectly straight, flat, but that's okay. I just need it to be covered enough. And then I can do this piece, I'm going to do facing up. I'm going to start over here in that corner. And this is almost 12 inches long and a little over, yeah, about 8 1/4 inches wide. So I think those measurements will work fine. Let's actually bring in my tape measure and just see exactly how long this is. So it is just a little longer than 8 1/4. So I think let's make some adjustments on our mat. We can go ahead and load this in. And then the other thing I'm going to do is move my rollers off to the side because I don't really want them rolling on my faux leather and potentially messing up my faux leather. So I've got those rolling off to the side. Okay, that is all set up. Let's go back to Silhouette Studio and look at our page setup here. We're just gonna adjust this page setup because our we're only like 8 1/4 wide, and I just want to make sure everything's gonna fit on here, and I don't want to cut off any of the edges, and it's still gonna fit, which is great news. I just needed to scoot that over a little bit, and then I can come over to the sun panel, and you'll see I've got 3 little dots on there, and no, these, you're not gonna really see them through the thickness of the faux leather, but these are gonna be good guard, kind of guard marks, I don't know, as to where we're gonna place our snaps. I thought 3 would look really nice on there. So I've got that all set up. It's gonna just cut, and then material wise, we're going to use leatherette. And we'll just scroll down here. Here's our leatherette setting. And then I like to do checking my sheet here, blade of 6, force of 22. And then speed 3, 2 passes. So I think that is gonna work just fine. Actually, we could have just, we're gonna revert. I'm just gonna leave it at the normal settings. I think that's gonna go great. Everything's good, loaded in. Let's go ahead and just send that on over to our machine. And then, oh, and you can see that first corner is caught. There we go. It sort of fixed itself a little bit there. You just never know. Okay, so while that's going, let's get everything set up for our HTV. We don't need to sit and watch that cut, because it's gonna make 2 passes. So I am gonna try to kind of keep an eye on it, because I will have to probably fix that top piece again. But let's go ahead and pull in our, whoops, I clicked it too many times, our little happy fall. And then for this, I'm going to do, I'm just gonna use my sticky mat And then our media size, I'm just gonna say is 12 by 12. I'm just gonna cut just a little strip. Actually, we could even just cut a really tiny piece of this. I'm just watching it, just did its first cut. It's thinking everything worked well, and then it should come back through and cut it a second time. I swear sometimes it just takes a lot to think about what it wants to do. Let's come back over to our sun panel and see what's happening. Oh, it says it's ready. Interesting. Okay, let's look at it. Pretty sure it only did one pass. Let's see. You can see your cut line there, but I know it didn't cut all the way through. So if it thinks it's done, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit this repeat button. And then it's gonna go ahead and cut that all one more time. So there's our little holes. And then we're just gonna let that cut again. Okay, so let's go back and finish setting this up. So what I was thinking is maybe we just cut a big strip, but what I think I'm gonna do is just cut just a small area here to fit this on. So let's go ahead and just, we're gonna cut a 4 by 3 piece. So I'm going to do my media size custom, and we're gonna say this is 4 inches wide, and then the height is gonna be 3 inches tall. And then you can see that that's gonna give us plenty of room right there to fit that in, and then this will just be a scrap. I like the way that looks. Everything's good there. We can come over to the sun panel. So it went ahead and did a second pass. So before I really, this one's a little bit more difficult to kind of check because you've got that extra transfer tape on there, but we can just go ahead and kind of lift up a corner here, see what we think about that cut. And while it does look like it cut pretty good, I'm not convinced that it cut all the way through there. So what I think I'm gonna do is just go ahead and do it one more time. So we're just gonna hit, ideally I would probably just come through and make sure I would probably come through here and just make sure that it's cutting deep enough. Oh, and then things like that happen. Boy. So when crazy things happen, I like to just take my blade out. So you can see with the rollers, like everything's kind of fluffed and in the wrong direction. And in order to not ruin this anymore, what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and peel this off of here, and then I'm just going to use my little cut tool and just make a nice deep cut, because we did just kind of goof that up because this transfer tape kind of picked up a little bit. And I didn't want to ruin that anymore. So let me show you how we're gonna do that. Here's my template. So let's get this done first before we move on. So let me pull in my little cutting knife, X-Acto knife type thing, I guess. And then I can see the lines on here pretty good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm mostly just worried about this end here. And it seems like maybe it cut better this time, but I'm just gonna come through and go right on that line that's already there and cut that. And I will say, this is not my favorite transfer tape. I definitely don't use it as transfer tape, so I thought this would be a good use for it. But I don't know that I love it for this either. But we'll go ahead, I'm just cutting right on that line that's already there. Okay. That looks better. And I'm gonna see if I can just peel this out. Okay, so it looks like this part here needs a little more help. Okay. Okay, so there's my strip, and you can see it's not perfect. It's not, you know, I've got some edges here, so I can just come in here. This is a self-healing mat, so don't worry. And I can just kind of try to trim off some of these pieces. While it's not going to look perfectly straight, and that is all because of me. It is nothing to do with the machine or the technique. It is really just the transfer tape that I'm using isn't that sticky, and it doesn't stick great to this mat either. But there is that piece, so that's good. So now I can save the rest of this faux leather for another project. I can get rid of this transfer tape. We don't need that anymore. And then now I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my piece of heat transfer vinyl. And we're doing 4 inches long. And that, you can see nothing's in a straight line here, so let's see. So you know what I like to do when I'm cutting pieces? I like to bring in a straight edge because, like I told you, I am not great at straight edges to save my life. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start by giving this a straight edge right here. So just putting it in there so that everything has a straight edge, and then I'm just going to line that up on the lines on here. And yes, I am going to waste that bit right there, but I'm totally fine with that. And then I can continue to use this, and we're going to do 3 inches this direction. So let me just, sometimes I find that's not always so helpful, as it is helpful to just set things here. And we needed 3 inches tall, which I can just make some marks on this. And then, oops, 4 inches wide, which will be right there. So now that I've got my marks on here, now I can easily tuck this in here. Okay, get rid of that, rid of the tape. And then I'm just trying to find an edge to line things up here. And then I don't want to, I'm going to start this guy down here because I don't want to do the whole thing. And then I'm just going to be mindful. You can see here, we're at the 1 inch mark. So I'm going to come down to this 4 inch mark here, and that'll be 3 inches. Does that make sense? It's about right there. And you figure that your blade's in the center of this piece, so you may have to come a little further than you think. Okay, and then we're going to turn it this direction. And then we're going to do the same thing. I'm lining it up on the lines there. And then now I'm just going to bring that down to the line I already created. Okay, there is my piece that I need. And then when you're doing heat transfer vinyl, you want to make sure that you're doing your You're cutting on the back side of your material, so the shiny side is facing up. That's your transfer tape. And then I'm just gonna put that right here in this corner, right on my mat. And we gave it lots of space around the edges, so we've got some buffer room on there, and you can see it doesn't want to stick really great on here, which is fine. We can tape that down, and we're still gonna have plenty of room for everything to cut, even though we put some tape on here. I'm just gonna split this in half. Starting to think I may need to invest. This is just the standard grip of the Nakapa mats, and I'm thinking I may need to try like a heavy duty one for non-cardstock projects. This standard grip is great for cardstock, which is the majority of what I do. But when I do projects like this, I find myself taping everything down, which is a little bit annoying. Okay, so now I can put this in. I'm gonna go ahead and get that lined up. We'll load that in. And now I can put my rollers back where they go because they're not gonna interfere with any of this. And where your rollers go is completely up to you. I think that's gonna look fine. Our auto blade is loaded in. And we can go ahead and let's double check everything before we send it. All right, we've got everything set up here. I like to use the heat transfer flocked setting, and that's a force of 33, speed of 5, blade depth of 3 with 1 pass. And we got it all set up and it's ready to go, so we can just hit send. And then it gives you this lovely reminder, do you need to mirror it? We've already mirrored, so we're gonna hit send as is. And then it's gonna give you this next little reminder, we're gonna hit send. And then we're gonna go ahead and let that go to cut. All right, that's all done. And we can check a little spot right here, and that peeled up fine, so we can go ahead and unload. And then let's just get this weeded out really quick. I have the heat press warming up in the background. So we'll go ahead and just give this a quick weed. It shouldn't be too hard because we can go ahead and just quickly take the outline and get rid of that. And then everything else will just be able to quickly weed the inside. So let me zoom in here so you can do this with me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab an edge and just carefully pick that up. Oh, and it took some of these, didn't stay in place. So I'm gonna try to put that back in place because we want that little piece and we want this little piece. So we're gonna have to be really careful weeding around these because those guys really wanted to come out and we want those to stay. So we might have a little fight here with our acorn. But let's see if we can't quickly weed everything else. So I'm gonna leave that acorn to weed for last and see if I can't just do the rest of it quickly and efficiently. Worked well. Okay. I'm gonna cut some of this extra off of here to just make it a little bit easier to concentrate right on this tiny area that we're trying to weed here, right around our acorn. Okay. And I can go ahead and peel this piece out, I think, real quick. The bottom of the acorn is fine. It's this part here that's going to be troublesome. Just seemed like maybe there wasn't enough grip on some of these tiny little pieces. So I'm just using the flat edge of my weeding tool to try to press those into place, back into the stickiness, while I try to weed that outline, and we'll see if those will just stay in place. So the carrier sheet does have some stickiness kind of facing up. So hopefully there's enough stickiness that I can just very carefully weed these out. And I know it's probably hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm just using this kind of flat, non-sharp, not pokey end of my weeding tool to try to grab some of these very small parts of that acorn and see if I can't get those to stay in place. Probably should have turned the speed down a little bit so that these would have cut better. And I think that's part of it, is it just didn't cut great around some of these openings. Okay, well, we got it. And some of the pieces are kind of moved, but just like with your vinyl, it does kind of cut into that carrier a little bit, so you can kind of see the outlines of where these pieces are supposed to sit. So I can take a moment here and just fix those up. Just being very careful as I'm maneuvering these to not puncture them, because these are the pieces we want to save. Okay, so our piece is all weeded out, and then you can see we arranged things a little better, so that's ready to go. And then here is our piece. So when you're placing this on here, you have to remember that this is going to curve on here, and you just want to make sure you have it going the right direction. So it's going to curve down, and then that's the way you want to do it. So you might have to check it on there, but you want it to curve this direction. So you see how the edges kind of curve down? That's how you know you have it right. So as soon as our heat press is all heated up, we'll get going. So I'll be back when that's done. Okay, our heat press is all warmed up. I'm just going to give this a 5-second pre-pass here. So just with the vinyl, or I mean with the faux leather. And I'm just going to hold that here. Okay. And that was just to kind of warm everything up to get it ready to hold on to what we're doing. So that looks good. And then I can go ahead and just bring in our lovely design, and I'm just going to try to center that on here the best that I can. Sorry, my arms are kind of in the way while I'm doing this. All right, I think that looks great right there. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this back over. We're doing 285 degrees for 30 seconds. So we'll go ahead and do that. Oh, it's really stuck on there, isn't it? I think there's might be something on my sticky sheet, but there we go. Let's take this back to the table and take a look at it. Okay, so here is our piece. I'm gonna do this as a cool peel, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and give that a quick peel. I still have the heat press on, and I am gonna give this another press when we're done. Just another like 5 seconds. Look at that, and all of those tiny little pieces are stuck on there really well. Yay, okay. That makes me so happy. All right, so there it is. Let's go ahead and give that another quick press here. See if we can't get the lines out of it. The one bad thing you can see, especially on that side, it's got a little line. So I'm hoping with another quick press, maybe we can help get rid of that line. So we're just gonna do about 5 more seconds. Okay. And maybe that'll help get rid of that line too. Not exactly, but everything looks good. So let's pull it back over and do some more things. All right, so here is our piece so far. So now what we need to do is we've got these little dots on here that I had kind of made in there already, and I can barely see them, but they are there. And I'm going to use those little dots to direct me as to where I'm placing my snaps. And because this is going to be a really fall themed, I think maybe these lovely, these ones might be, actually these little tiny ones I think will be really cute. Let's use these even smaller ones. So we're going to use the even smaller pieces here. So there's a front piece and a back piece to all of these. Just dig them out of here. And then we can talk about them. Okay, there we go. So you've got a kind of bigger piece here that has a stem on it. And then you have a smaller piece here that does not have a stem. And then we are going to use those in these little areas. So what we need to do is completely punch through the holes. So you have this piece here that you're going to use to help you punch those holes. Okay, so I've got this one here that has like a raised piece here in the center, and then this piece here has a hole here, and this is what's going to punch our hole. So what I'm going to do is line that up. I can see at least my middle dot here, and I'm going to try to line that up on here and see if I can't just punch that out right on that area. And then you just kind of swirl it on there, and then it'll punch that piece right out. The fun part is trying to get it lined up. And then you can take something, if you have a hammer, that's best. But I don't have my hammer handy, so I can just do it that way, or you can just kind of swirl on there. And then that punched out my hole. Okay, we got all of our 3 holes there. And then we can put our long end through here. Now the other thing you need to do is you need to do the same on the other side. So these are going to fold over this direction. So you need to go ahead and just wrap that around your cup where you want it. And then we just need to kind of measure where it's going to fold over. So that way you're getting your dots in the same place. So I've got the dots on the top here. And then what I'm gonna do while that's folded over is come in, let me see. I'm just gonna use my little pointy tool here, and I'm just gonna try to make a little dot, little puncture spot in these, kind of right in the center. So now I have dots on this one as well. And then I'm gonna repeat that same process over here. And trying to line up those little dots right on the center. And then we can hammer those in as well. Those were a little bit ugly. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, you've got all your holes done. We're gonna do our prettier holes on the outside here. We're gonna go ahead and fold these together. Okay, well these are not snaps. These are gonna be permanent, and then you're going to just leave it this way and you can slide it onto your drink. So I've got the long piece kind of going in, and then this part sticks up this direction, and then it's going to just lay on here. Let's do that for all of these, and then we're gonna come back through, and then we'll just hammer these all together. Okay, so they're all snapped on there right now. And then I can go ahead and just do one at a time. I've got it sitting on that metal piece, and you see how they're standing up pretty far. So now this piece, let me see which one. Goes over top. And then I'm going to use this piece again to be my hammer. It's all about using their, okay, so you have this piece underneath. No spiky ends sticking up. I know it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm putting the rounded end underneath, setting that on the table. And then these are just a rounded curved end that I'm putting on there. And then I'm just using this one for some downward pressure. And those are just snapping together a little bit more cleanly. And then we'll do the same thing with our last one here. Just getting them really nice and tight on there. So there is our snaps. And they're pretty well aligned. I couldn't quite see all my dots, so they're not perfect. And then this side here looks really cute. So now what I do is I'll just slide it up over my drink, and there it is. What do you think? I think it turned out super, super cute. You got the snaps on the back. Well, I think the snaps would have looked a lot better if I would have taken the time to make sure I could see my little dots. Probably should have used my template that I already had to check the placement. But now this just slides right on there and looks super cute. And then when I'm done with it, it's just gonna fold nice and flat. And then I can just keep this in my purse, or, you know, you can also just keep it on here because it's made to fit this cup. So this is a 16-ounce Starbucks mug with my now super cute ready for fall drink.